Hello and how's it going? Zach D Productions here, and I am here for an album review for you guys. So for this review, I will be reviewing the long-awaited, highly anticipated new album by Demon Hunter entitled Exile. This is the standard edition of the album, as you can see, and this is actually the edition that I will be reviewing in this video, in this review. And I do have the deluxe edition pre-ordered, and that should be coming in the mail soon. So for this review, I'm not going to talk about the deluxe edition, not the deluxe tracks or anything. Maybe at a later date, I'll give my thoughts on the bonus tracks, but I just wanted to focus on the standard edition for this review. And I've actually had this copy for a while now. I've had it for like over a month now, believe it or not. Yes, I am one of the people that did get the CD whenever I went to go see Demon Hunter live. And when I saw Demon Hunter live, that was actually my first time seeing them. And they're definitely very good live, and I would definitely be willing to see them again if given the chance, of course. But yeah, and I think it is cool that I did get to hear this album early because, well, it's good, I guess, preparation for this review. You know, obviously I've given this album multiple spins, and I've given a lot of these songs a lot of replay, and you know, I just feel like I can give you a proper review since I've had more time with this album than the average fan has, basically. And as many of you know, Demon Hunter is definitely a band that means a lot to me. They were basically one of the bands that got me into metal. I mean, if you know me well enough, this is a band that I definitely have some bias towards, you know. A band that you could say I take rather seriously, more serious than I should, basically. But I think there's a few reasons for this. You know, I do think that this band definitely deserves way more in the world of metal. And these guys, I mean, who knows if I would be into metal if it wasn't for these guys, because they were one of the bands that got me into metal, you know? They were my first metalcore band, and, you know, I got into metalcore and then got into all different types of metal bands and other metal subgenres and so on and so forth. So I do give Demon Hunter a lot of credit, I do, and I think that they're a very underrated band for sure. A very unique band in metalcore. And now Demon Hunter basically wanted to do a concept album this time around. And would I say that the idea of Demon Hunter doing a concept album works? I would say maybe. And the only reason I would say maybe is because when you do listen to a lot of these songs, you kind of do forget that you are listening to a concept record. And maybe that's because a lot of these songs, they do enough to stand on their own. You know, usually with concept albums, like, you listen to a song and you can kind of figure out that, like, they're all connected. Now, these songs on Exile, they're all connected for sure. Like, whenever you listen to each song, at the end of each song, it just leads right into the next song. That is what happens here on this album. And I'm very curious to see how that'll work with the deluxe edition, because supposedly there will be interludes on the deluxe edition. So I'm curious to see how that'll work, you know, since these songs already blend together on the standard edition. That's something that I am confused about. Like, how are they going to make that work? I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see about that, but yeah, maybe they've like altered ways to make it so that they'll blend in with the interludes or something. I'm not even sure, but it is interesting nonetheless that Demon Hunter did decide to do a concept album this time around. So I know that obviously I'm not the only one who has heard this album early, and you know, based on what people have said, a lot of fans are surprisingly saying that this is Demon Hunter's worst album. I do not agree with that. I'm just going to put it out there that I don't think that this is anywhere close to one of their weakest. I think that they've had way worse albums than this. I think the album is very good, actually. And I would definitely say that it's at least better than the last few. It's better than Outlive, for sure. That's without a question. Better than War and Peace. You know, when I first listened to this album, that was something that I was thinking about. Like, is this album better than War and Peace? You know, I would say that overall, it's at least better than the Peace album. Now, the Peace album I do think is pretty good, and I do think it has some of their best work, like Recuse Myself, which is actually one of my personal favorite Demon Hunter tracks. But when it comes to the Peace album overall, I would definitely say that Exile is better. Now, better than War, that is definitely something worth debating for sure, because to me, War, I thought, was Demon Hunter's best album in years at the time. You know, I thought it was a return to form at the time for the band. So, yeah, I don't know. But this album actually might be their best since Extremist. I might go that far. I don't know. I think that this is a pretty enjoyable listen. I do. It's a very unique album for Demon Hunter. I would even go as far to say that this is their most unique album, and it's definitely their most cinematic album as well. And again, that could have to do with this album being a concept album. Now, before this album, I would say that their most cinematic album was either Extremist or Outlive, maybe. I don't know. But Exile is easily Demon Hunter's most cinematic album. So let's go ahead and talk about these tracks. Now, some of these songs actually feature guest appearances, which is a first for Demon Hunter in years. The last time that Demon Hunter had guests appear on their albums was The World is a Thorn, I believe. But yeah, obviously we all know about the circumstances surrounding this album with the album's delay and also the amount of singles that they've released. They've released a ridiculous amount of singles prior to the album's release. They basically spoiled half the album, unfortunately. Now, some fans won't think anything of this, but people like me, I was kind of disappointed by that. I'm like, really, guys? But it's whatever. And, you know, I really do hope when it comes to the release schedule as well, you know, because they've unfortunately made a lot of fans mad with the circumstances surrounding this album. So hopefully Demon Hunter learns from that for the next album, because I do realize that this is their first album going independent as well. So let's just talk about the tracks already. So the first track is Defense Mechanism, which is featuring Max Cavalera from Soulfly, formerly from Sepultura. I'm a big fan of both bands, and to no surprise, this is one of the heaviest songs on the album, and I knew it was going to be a heavy one since it had Max Cavalera in this song. And unlike most Demon Hunter opening tracks, they usually have like a build-up at the beginning that leads into some riffs and the first verse or whatever. This song doesn't really do that. It just starts right away with some aggressive vocals, and Ryan Clark and Max's chemistry in the song, I think, work very well, and it's definitely one of the heaviest tracks on the album, maybe even the heaviest. But yeah, pretty solid opening track for sure. And then we got the song Master, which honestly is probably my favorite of the singles at this point. Always really enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it to this day. I mean, I dig pretty much everything about it. I think the lyrics are interesting as well. The song, I think, has some of Ryan's best vocals on the album. I also really enjoy those echoing moments in this song. I don't know if they're echoing moments. It's some kind of vocal effect used. I mean, you guys know what parts of the song I'm talking about. Those parts of the song I thought were a nice feature to the song. And it also features the cinematic hits as well. Almost sounds like a movie trailer. It's just a really well-made song, and again, probably my favorite of the singles. Really great song, and probably one of my favorites on the album, too. And then we got Silence the World, which is featuring Tom S. England. Now, if I remember correctly, Ryan Clark actually stated that this is actually his favorite song on the album. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorites too. Probably not my top favorite, but one of my favorites, sure, probably. This was, of course, one of the singles as well, and it's another great song that features some cinematics. It's a real epic-sounding song, so if you like your rock and metal epic-sounding, you probably will like this song, and it's a pretty lengthy song as well, one of the longer tracks on the album. It's a really good one for sure. And I'm not too familiar with Tom S. England's vocals before this track, but after hearing this song, he doesn't have a bad voice. Not bad. Really good song. And then we got Heaven Don't Cry, which is definitely more on the accessible side. It's very radio friendly. It's very melodic. And from what a lot of fans have been saying, like, this is apparently a lot of fans' favorite song of the singles, basically. Or maybe they're one of their favorites on the album. For me, it's definitely not one of my favorites on the album, and it's definitely not my favorite of the singles either. I don't think it... I just think that there's better singles on this album than Heaven Don't Cry. But still, for what it is, it's a good song. You know, I don't mind it. You know, I like the verses, and the chorus, I mean, the chorus is decent. It's definitely not one of the strongest choruses on the album, but it's all right. It's a good song for what it is, I think. And then we got Another Place, which is another more melodic song, and this is kind of a unique song on the album, I think. I really like the dark guitar melody in the song, especially towards the beginning. It starts off kind of calm and slow at the beginning, and then the song picks up. And Ryan does sound like he's giving it his all in this song, and I do like the lyrics to the song and everything. It's a very good song. Really good one, and I can see this going down as maybe one of the more underrated tracks from this album, and I'm curious to see what fans will think of this song. So Another Place, definitely a good song. And then we got Freedom is Dead, which is the first single, and yeah, it's definitely one of the heaviest songs on the album. Either this song or Defense Mechanism is the heaviest track on the album. And you know, when this was first released as a single, you know, especially as a first single, you know, you expect that the rest of the album would be like this, like really aggressive and brutal like this song. But surprisingly, no, the album is a lot more melodic, you know. But, and not that that's a bad thing. It's definitely not a bad thing, but it's just a little misleading, that's all. You know, I just think that, you know, for a first single, you got to give the fans something that represents the whole album, basically, you know? Like, if they were to make, like, Silence the World the first single or something like that, I think that would have been more appropriate, but whatever. Whatever. Freedom is Dead was the first single, and I think it's a good song. I don't think it would be a favorite of mine on the album, but I do like it, though. It's still a very good track. I really like the aggressive vocals, and everything that it has going for it. It is a shorter song. It is more straightforward, but for what it is, it's pretty good. And then we got Praise the Void, which I was definitely looking forward to hearing this song for sure, because, well, if you didn't know, we first heard this song on Songs of Death and Resurrection, their latest acoustic album. And I really liked that version of the song, so of course I was definitely curious about the Exile version of Praise the Void. And I will say that this song is not amazing as I thought it was going to be, but still, I think it's a very good song. I've always really enjoyed the chorus and everything. Obviously, there are things about this song that are different from the resurrected version. This song, like, it's sort of heavier. Now, I use heavier loosely because it's still pretty much a power ballad. It's still very melodic. It's a really good song, though, for sure. And then we got Revolutions, which is a cool song. I do like this one. This song has definitely grown on me. I do like the guitar work in this song. Now, one thing that I do find kind of weird, and this is actually something that I've seen some other people complain about with other Demon Hunter tracks, and yeah, it's definitely something that I've noticed, not just with this song, but other Demon Hunter tracks. And it's that sometimes Demon Hunter will have a riff or a chorus or a verse or whatever that doesn't sound connected with the rest of the song, you know? And this song definitely has that. Like, when you listen to the intro and the outro of this song, when you listen to the very beginning and the end of this song, both those parts of the song, they sound like they don't even connect to the rest of the song. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but that's something that I've noticed. Now, I think it's a good song for what it is. I do like Ryan's vocals in this song. He does sound very good in this song, but that's just a little something that I've noticed with this song. Overall, pretty good song. Probably not one of my favorites, but it's good for what it is. And then we got the song Chemicals. I might get some flack for this, I don't know, but I think that this is honestly the weakest song on the album. Not that this is a bad song, I think the song is okay at best. Honestly, I wouldn't consider any of these songs bad. I would say that all the songs are good except for this song. This song is just okay, in my opinion. When it comes to Ryan's clean vocals, now I do like his clean vocals a lot overall and just generally, but when it comes to his clean vocals in this song, it kind of sounds like the Peace era a little bit, like something from Peace, like as far as his clean vocals are concerned. So I'm kind of like one of the weaker songs on that album, you know? But yeah, I'm just not too thrilled with it, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I don't know. Just not as great as the other tracks on the album, but I wouldn't call it bad by any means. And then we got the song Godless, which is featuring Richie from Judas Priest, and I am a Judas Priest fan, and I was definitely looking forward to this song for sure because of the guitarist from Judas Priest. And it's a good song. It's probably not my favorite on the album. It's probably not one of my favorites, but I still think it's a very good song still. I do like Ryan's vocals in this song, his melodic vocals. And Richie's guitar does sound pretty good. You know, he's definitely given it his all with his guitar. Now, one thing that some people have complained about, which I can definitely understand, is that one part of the song where Ryan's using his harsh vocals, I know some people say that that part of the song is a little unnecessary. I can kind of agree with that. Didn't really need to be a part of the song, you know, but I just feel like they just added harsh vocals, or that line of harsh vocals to the song just so that the band could say that, hey, the song has harsh vocals, or wanted to say that it's a heavy song. Yeah, but for what it is, it's a pretty good track. And then we got the song Devotion, which I think is another song that will go down as one of the more underrated tracks on this album. Now, if you are a Demon Hunter fan who prefers Demon Hunter's classic sound, you know, their first 4 or 5 albums basically, I would say that this is the song that'll probably do it for you the most. Because I do think that Devotion is probably the closest thing on this album to Demon Hunter's classic sound, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'll be alone on that opinion, but either way, I think it's a good song. I think it's very good, actually. If it's not one of my favorites, it's at least an honorable mention. I think it's a great track, actually. I like Ryan's vocals, both his cleans and his scream vocals. Very good. And I know that some people have compared the guitar in this song to the guitar work from the song Cold Blood from Outlive. I can kind of see that. And the guitar work also kind of reminds me of the band Red a little bit, especially in the intro, and I'm sure a lot of you would know what I'm talking about. But overall, Devotion, really great one. I really dig this one. And then we got the closing track, Along the Way. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think that this is maybe one of their best album closers. This is maybe the best closing track that they've done since Dead Flowers. I would even go as far to say that. Maybe, just maybe though. This is a song that's a little over 8 minutes. I mean, a Demon Hunter song that's a little over 8 minutes long. Hello. I mean, who would have seen that coming? It's definitely one of Demon Hunter's longer tracks, and it's brilliant. It's a really great song for sure. It's definitely one of my favorites on the album. Maybe even my favorite song on the album, actually. If it's not my favorite on the album, it's definitely among the top 3 for sure. Top 3 from this album. And I'm definitely curious to see what fans will think of this song in particular. Great guitar work. Some of the best guitar work on the album, for sure. Also some of Ryan Clark's best vocal deliveries on the album, for sure, on the song Along the Way. It's another more epic sounding song as well. And that guitar outro, I mean, I cannot get enough of that guitar outro. The way that the song ends with that guitar, I mean, it's just brilliant. I mean, I don't know who thought of that idea, but it's a brilliant way to end the album for sure. It's a really great song overall, and again, probably my favorite on the album. So yeah, Demon Hunter's album, Exile, very good. It's a very good album. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that this is their best album, but like I said, this is maybe their best since Extremist. I think it's a great album, and yeah. Now, this album is not, the super heavy album that we all anticipated when we first heard about Exile's announcement, because I know that some people were anticipating this album to be like, something very heavy, like the self-titled album or something. If you are someone who was expecting this album to be mostly heavy, and only very little melody, you're probably going to be disappointed in this album, because this album still has a ton of melody to it. Of course, it's a Demon Hunter album, and of course, it wouldn't be a Demon Hunter album without a lot of melody, right? And that's one of the reasons why I like this band. I love their melodies, They know how to do melodic songs very well, and I appreciate them for that, for sure. This album is kind of like Outlive in a lot of ways, I think. It's almost like a better version of Outlive. Not to say that I think it's like an Outlive Part 2 or whatever, but like a better version. Like I said, this album is miles better than Outlive. Outlive, I still think, is one of their weakest, but this album, it's great. I do think it's a really good album. So, as a score, I'll have to give this album either an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. Very good album for sure, and to no surprise, it's one of the best albums of the year in my opinion. So that's my review for Exile by Demon Hunter. Let me know what you think. Have you listened to this album? Do you like this album? Feel free to let me know. So on that note, thank you for watching, and have a good one.